I'll just tell you something short and cute. So somebody was introduced to a GRS, and he wasn't sure. I'm born a Jew, B'cholof, and maybe I should marry someone whose parents are Goyim. So Rav Yashin, who was so halachically oriented and not a schmoozer, he says, there's a pasuk in the Torah that says, "V'ahavtam et hager." Do you think it means somebody else should love the ger? Okay, that's it.
That's great. Thank you, Rebbitzin. Rebbitzin, next time you're in Machane Yehuda, bring them all to us. Oh, did she leave? Did Rebbitzin leave? I think so. Recording stopped. Okay.
Okay, hi everybody.
Recording in progress.
Hi everybody. Good morning. Good middle of the day. Hi Gitzi, thank you for hosting. Hi Rebbe Rachel. Hi Carolyn. And hi Yehudis. Hi Davida. Hi Elaine. And hi Malka. And hi Marcel. And hi Shani again. And hi Mrs. Guggenheim. Yehudis. Okay. Let's learn.
Rebbitzin, because we have some new people on our shir today, can we review the payment?
Now?
Yes, yeah. Before they leave.
Okay, everybody has to pay Gitty, and she'll send
putting my phone number in the box.
Good. Call her, and she'll tell you how to help keep the shir going and to relieve the burden off of her shoulders. She has tiny shoulders. She has all this stuff on her shoulders. And anyone who's listening on YouTube can also participate in sponsoring the shir, paying for the shir. A lot of things go into this shir. We have a lot of teachers we have to pay. So you can send an email, send a text to find out how to keep the shir going. If it's meaningful to you and if it's helpful to you, then and if you want to acquire it. Once a teacher of mine once said that there always has to be an exchange. So if someone's giving you something, you have to give them something in return so that you can receive. Giving and receiving is the flip side of the same coin. So if you don't give and you only receive, you're not going to receive. If you don't pay tuition, chas v'shalom, for your children in school, and you can, and you just don't because whatever, then you have to wonder what kind of education they're going to have and what kind of a relationship they're going to have with you, etc., etc. So it's very important to give in order to receive. Okay. It's a chock full of Parsha, and it's a chock full of current events week. It's unbelievable how quickly the world is changing and how that's the only way I can say it. I'll repeat it again, how quickly the world is changing and how, again, everyone is being polarized. Opinions are being, I just have to tell you that on the YouTube people, I'm going to tell you right now that my battery is low on the computer. So if for some reason YouTube conks out, then come on Zoom. I'll give you right now orally the Zoom information. You can join us without even a link. Here's the information on Zoom. 1 second. Just a second, Zoom people. And a second. The Zoom number is 872-9276-1720, and the passcode is 7711116. And you have to write your name in order to be allowed to be entered into the Zoom room. You have to write your name. And so in case the YouTube collapses because my battery is low, just go on Zoom. And if you have not yet downloaded Zoom on your computer or on your phone, you must do so. Okay, so we see how we're in a time now called Borer. Borer means Hashem is separating and making very big extremes in the world. After World War II, during World War II, there was extreme anti-Semitism. After World War II, people were able to cover up their anti-Semitism, and everyone was very parav. You know, in Jewish law, we have meat meals, we have dairy meals, and we have parav, neutral. So everyone tried to stay neutral and not really show their true feelings, or maybe try to work on their true feelings. And now, interestingly enough, in planet Earth, there are extremists coming about again and making their faces known into the world. So there's extreme anti-Semitism, as we saw last week in Amsterdam, and no matter no matter how they try to disguise it, the people who keep statistics reminded us that in World War II, the Dutch handed over 80% of their Jews, more than they handed over even more than that of their Jews to the Nazis, Yimach Shema, and the majority of the Jewish population was destroyed. And so the Dutch have never been our great friends, and now we see that they're getting paid back by the Muslims invading their country, and they're uncontrollable. Everyone knows that when you have extreme riotous people who are not educated and not refined. Sorry, it's going to sound very, very racist, but when you see these people, they're not elegant, refined people. They're wild. It's a whole wild group, and the police are not containing it. So it's interesting how Hashem is paying back country after country after country in Europe, England, France, Germany, and now Netherlands, overrun by immigrants who are not contributing to their society. Now, it's a very big question of who has a more godly religion. Meaning, clearly, the Bein Adam L'Chavero, which is what Hashem is judging the world on right now, is very, very weak in both of these. But you have a culture that doesn't even want to, that says openly that they want to take over each country that they go to. Okay, so look how we're watching what Hashem is doing. Meanwhile, here in our country, we're watching America elect and nominate the most pro-Israel government ever formed in the history of America. Every one of the appointees is vocally and actually pro-Israel. So we know that as soon as they get appointed, Leiv Malachim B'Leiv Hashem, that as soon as anyone gets appointed to the government in the position of power, they lose their free choice. Because Hashem is manipulating. Hashem uses everyone as bubot, as puppets, to manipulate them to get His will done. And we're all observant Jews, and we're just observing how Hashem is turning the whole world upside down. Every day they announce another announcement, and the fact that President Trump has made it a priority to announce he has a lot of people that he has to appoint and anoint and appoint and make suggestions for his team. But the ones that he's announcing first, all of them relate to fixing America and a good relationship with Israel. And fixing, look at that, they're trying to, he has a new committee. It's not a government committee, it's an independent citizens committee called, it has a funny Rashi Tevos, but it's basically trying to get the government efficient. And and he has two businessmen. One of them is called Elon Musk, and the other one is called Vivek something or other. I think he was a politician actually, who are overseeing this. Well, there's another one. I forgot. Maybe there was another one. I forgot all the names. They just want to make the government more efficient. In other words, anyone who's done any government, anything. I just got a letter, from one of the government offices in America that second request for something that I sent in such a long time ago, and every year I do the same thing. They sent second request. I have to call the embassy. They said, "Oh yeah, they got it. They just forgot to send you a whatever." It's just such a mess. Government is very, very unwieldy, and of course here we have the bureaucracy that we live with here, and all of it has to be simplified. One of my friends told me that a friend of hers bought a piece of land, and they wanted to build a house on it. And as they're digging and building, they found something that looked like an antiquity. So the builders, by law, have to stop and report it. So the builder reported it to the antiquities department. Till the antiquities department came down to look at it, till they decided what it was, till they gave an issue. It took I don't know, maybe years. And meanwhile, these are people who are building a house. But everything takes so slow, I just look even on Kanfei Nishon when they're building the train. You see 2 people working, 2 people sitting. So we need to, we can streamline this. There's no reason why not to. I had a student whose husband was working in the government in America, in the New York City system, and he's a real, worker. Like he loves to work hard and he loves to accomplish, etc., etc. And he couldn't believe that they would say to him, "Okay, this is what you have to do today." And he said, "But that's like 2 hours work. I have a whole 8-hour day. That's all we have for you today." So he said, "Give me more work." No, because if we give you more work, then we have to put pressure on the next team, and then they put pressure. So he said, "So that's okay. We're all workers, No, everything's slow and no pressure, and that's ridiculous." That's why Trump is such a good president, because he's a business person. He knows how to keep things running efficiently with all of his other stuff. Okay. So that's what's going on in the world. Meanwhile, here in Israel, we had a crazy week of fighting missiles in Haifa. And yesterday, 2 men were killed at work. They couldn't get to it hit a direct hit into a warehouse, and they couldn't get to a safe place, and they were killed. And so there's always this talk about a ceasefire and taking a break, and all of these things here in Israel, where it's like we know here that whenever there's something good news about to happen in Israel, the enemy always fights more and more and more and more. Like even the last 2 hours of a ceasefire, even the first 2 hours after the ceasefire takes place, they start shooting to get their last licks in. So we're in very, very remarkable times. And what are we supposed to do? Each of us is supposed to, besides reading the news and talking to each other, we're each supposed to get our act together and be more real. Be more real with God. Be more real with ourselves. We have to be more real, because Mashiach is the ultimate real person. And he's going to attach us to the ultimate, to Hashem, who's the ultimate in truth. We have to be more truth. And this week's Parsha has so many adventures in it of pushing people to reveal their truth. Parsha's Vayera. The Parsha begins, as you know. I'm just going to tell you the headings of all the stories. One of the ladies here likes when I do that. I didn't look to see if she's on the share, but she enjoyed it. So I'm going to give you an outline of the Parsha's Vayera. The fourth week, the fourth Parsha, the fourth Torah portion in the first book of the Torah. We began to reread the Torah on Simchat Torah, and the first Shabbos after all the holidays were over. Okay, so the first story in the Parsha is Avraham Avinu was sitting outside his tent looking for guests. Hashem made the sun very hot, and Hashem didn't want him to have guests because he wanted him to rest from his bris milah, from the circumcision, which was the end of last week. And he's sitting outside, and Hashem sees that he really wants guests, and Hashem sends him 3 angels in the form of travelers. And the 3 angels were one to heal him from his bris milah, the angel Raphael, and one to inform him and Sarah that Yitzchak is on the way, and that they're going to have a child, and one to destroy Sodom. 3 angels, and each had a job to do. And they came, and they tell Sarah, and they tell Abraham, and Sarah laughs, and Hashem says, "Why do you laugh?" And she said, I didn't laugh to mock. I laughed out of joy, and Hashem said, that's true. You laughed out of joy, and therefore you'll call him Yitzchak. But make sure that you work on your, that there was no shocking, like, really, that's going to happen to me? And she accepted Hashem's telling her that. And then Hashem says to himself, so to speak, how can I keep a secret from he who I love so much, Abraham? And he tells him that he's about to destroy those two wicked cities called Sodom and Amorah. Those two wicked cities, Abraham in last week's Parsha rescued them. He rescued them from the kings and from the world war that had happened at that point. And you would think that because he rescued them, they would be grateful and go back to and begin to live a life that was Abrahamic. Instead, they reverted to immorality. So Hashem said, I'm going to kill stone. And then Avram Avinu says, how could that be? What if there's good people there? Hashem said, of course, if there's good people there, I won't kill them. And then Avram Avinu starts to count them. What if there's 50? Because there were 5 cities. So in each city, 10 righteous people, and 40, 30, etc. And Hashem said, I'll save them if there's anybody there that's righteous. And but there was no righteous people there. The only people who were there that Hashem spared was Lot and his wife and his daughter. The rest of the family, his daughters, the rest of the family was killed because they didn't want to leave Sodom. So they go out of Sodom. Sodom is destroyed, it's incinerated. Lot's wife turns around to look because she wants to get see into the world, the first level of the spirit of Mashiach. That's a crazy story that needs hours and hours of explanation. And then Sarah Yemenu is kidnapped again by Avimelech, and Avimelech's whole nation, his whole family gets sick. And then Avimelech says, Hashem says to Avimelech, it's because you kidnapped Sarah, you knew she was married. Avimelech tries to excuse himself. Hashem says, listen, I'm Hashem, I know everything. You're lying. Every one of these was tests in emes, in truth. And Avimelech finally said, okay, gave back Sarah, gave back gave lots of money to cover up her embarrassment. And then finally, it's Sarah Yemenu gets pregnant. Yitzchak Avinu is born. They have a big bris milah. The whole world comes. Sarah Yemenu nurses all the babies because everyone said maybe it's not from Abraham, and maybe it's not from Sarah. Maybe they just picked up a kid on the street. And so Abraham, the baby looked exactly like Avraham Avinu. The face was exactly the same to show his fatherhood. And Sarah Yemenu began nursing. She had milk to nurse, and she nursed all the babies. And she did that with an incredible kavanah. Years later, her descendant Shlomo HaMelech had the same kavanah, the same intention. When Shlomo HaMelech made political alliances with 1,000 countries, and the way they did that was sending the princess of the country to be living in the country. So it says that Shlomo HaMelech married 1,000 women. He didn't marry 1,000 women, meaning marry them. He made political alliances with their fathers. The father sent the princess, their daughters, of 1,000 different communities, countries, states, islands. The whole Shlomo HaMelech ruled over the entire world. And why was it that he was able to do that? Why was every country willing to bend and to give Shlomo HaMelech the honor of being the king of the world? He was the first Mashiach ben David, king of the world, because Sarah Yemenu had nursed all these babies, and her milk went into these babies, and these babies, each one of them, were the progenitors of all the different countries that ever came into the world. And so later, in every single country, in every single human being on planet Earth who came to Sarah Yemenu, to the bris of Yitzchak Avinu, who had some kind of a connection to us, was given the milk, was nursed by Sarah Yemenu. That translates into, he was given the opportunity to be godly and to attach to a godly way of life, and to eventually attach to and to be supportive of the Jewish people. Okay.
Rebbetzin?
Yeah.
Sorry, maybe I missed it. Who are these other babies that Sarah nursed?
All the nations of the world sent. Listen, Avram Avinu was the king of the world also at the time. He was the most famous. Remember, he had just won a battle. He had just won a war with the 4 kings, the 5 kings. He was the one. He was the person on a crusade to teach the whole world about Hashem. The whole world knew about him, and he was a billionaire. So at the bris, he invited everyone, and everybody wanted to come and see how could it be a 90-year-old woman giving birth, and to the most famous man on the planet. So everybody got an invitation. Wouldn't you go? So everybody and everyone lived in the Middle East in those days. It wasn't like America was populated or Europe. Everyone lived, so they all came, and all of the women brought their babies. And because they said, Sarah said, there's rumors. The bris in 8 days, you can have a rumor circulating the whole entire world, even without WhatsApp. So Sarah Imeinu said, bring your babies. I'll prove you that I gave birth. And they brought their babies. Princesses brought their babies, and they were the ones who were nursed by Sarah Imeinu. Anyway, at the bris,
Thank you.
At the bris, Yishmael is 14 years old, and he starts mocking. He tried to kill the baby because he's now he's in big trouble, because up until the baby is born, up until Yitzchak Avinu was born, Yishmael was the heir to Avraham Avinu and to his fortune and to his fame. And now this new baby is going to come and push it away, because everyone knew that Hagar she wasn't a full wife. So Yishmael tried to kill Yitzchak Avinu at the bris, and he's mocking him and making all kinds of fun, and that happened for a very long time. So Sarah Imeinu said, okay, it's Avraham Avinu, get rid of them, they can't stay here anymore. And Avraham Avinu thought that Yishmael could eventually do tshuva, and eventually Yishmael does do tshuva. But at that point, he had to be sent away. He is sent away, and his mother marries into a Mitzrim. And then at the end of the Parsha comes the Akedas Yitzchak, the binding of Yitzchak. And the very, very end of the Parsha, we hear that Rivka Imeinu was born. And that's how all the different stories of Parshas Vayera, chock full of events and adventures. And every one of these events and adventures formulated and formed us, the Jewish people, and actually the whole entire world. One of the things I want to talk about is a teaching that we know that I'm going to review, because it's the beginning of Parshas Bereishis. We learn the whole year through, but in the beginning, it's always important to review certain rules in the Parsha. The first rule in the Parsha is whatever is in the Parsha is happening in current events. It's up to us to try to make parallels between all the stories in the Parsha and what happened this past week. Because every single week we get a Parsha, and every single week things happen. I'm not going to go through my opinions of it. I'm going to let you do some homework and think about how any or all of these stories, you see that there's an interaction of the Jewish people. Avraham Avinu was the Jewish people. Then Yitzchak Avinu, the continuation of the Jewish people. Then eventually Yaakov Avinu, right, is coming up. So, and the interaction, a very, very strong political interaction with the world, meaning with Avimelech. Avimelech later on makes a treaty with Avraham Avinu and binds him and says, I want you to swear. They were in Beersheba. I want you to swear. Beersheba has so many different meanings, but one of it is a shluah, an oath. Swear that you'll be good to my descendants, that your descendants will be good to my descendants. Avimelech wants that, and Avraham Avinu does, but he says to him, but you have to remember that you have to be honest, because your shepherds and your men stole all of my wells and they stuffed them up. So I'll make a treaty with you, but you have to be moral, as in the ways that I'm teaching morality. So there's political alliances. There's interfamily alliances, and dynamics in families, right? The strongest dynamic is, of course, Avram, Sarah, Yitzchak, that strong dynamic, and how they interact with each other. So many things, but the beginning of the Parsha talks about simple hospitality. Hachnasat orchim. Avram Avinu had a taiva, he had a desire to help people. God created his soul from the midah of chesed. We all know that. So there's this concept of hospitality. I'm going to put that on a pause for 1 second. Is the beginning of the parsha is always connected to the end of the parsha, and sometimes it's very, very hard to see the connection. Here it's not hard at all because the beginning of the parsha is describing the birth of the Bisorah, the news that Yitzchak will be born, and the end of the parsha comes his wife, Rivka is born. The Bisorah, the news that Rivka was born. And we know that there's a continuity there. I'm not very politically correct, and I don't know whose toes I'll be stepping on right now. Not of the people in the Zoom class because those people I know, but people who watch the share. So forgive me if I'm stepping on your toes. But the Parsha Vayera, talks about family. It talks about husband, wife, and kids. And the beginning of the Parsha discussing Yitzchak Avinu's upcoming birth, and the end of the parsha discussing Rivka Imeinu's birth, and they were soulmates. So there's a certain. I was very proud of President Trump when he said he's going to not allow those the surgeries. I really can't have I really have a very hard time believing that this occurred, but there were kids 9 years old where if they ever said that they wanted to have an operation to change their gender and their parents objected and they came back to school and they said my parents objected, the kids would be taken away from the parents, or the parents would be just, their opinion was ignored and the kid was allowed to have an operation. It's like a non-refundable purchase. You can't change that. A little kid, 9 years old, can barely remember to brush his teeth, wash his hands, and wipe himself in the bathroom. And he's allowed to make a decision about a surgery that will change his life. And the parents don't have the right to object. Like, is that really true? Did that really happen? So if anybody can tell me if that really happened or if it was just like a theoretical thing. But President Trump says that, of course, he's going to abolish that possibility. For little kids, for minors. If a person's 18 years old, they're already an adult. If they want to make decisions, they can make decisions. And if they want to make those kind of major kinds of decisions, understanding all the ramifications and all the health ramifications, okay. But President Trump talks about, he said he wants to restore the concept of a family, mother, father, children unit, a family unit. That's the biblical family, the biblical unit of humanity. I was very proud that he said that. And even though I'm sure there are very liberal people in his in America, but that's really hard to imagine that anybody would take away the rights of biological parents who've been raising the child, who are healthy and wonderful and loving, and they want to make stop the kid from making a terrible mistake, and the government would interfere and say, no, you can't stop your children. You have to let them do that. That makes no sense to me. Anyway.
And I would also ask who would pay for such an operation, who is
right.
certain.
That's right. And the American
suddenly they have money for this.
Right. That's true. That's true that the government would pay for taxes would pay for that. It's a crazy. That was really the craziest thing. All the other, and the anti-Israel. That's an old thing. Listen, this is also an old story. This whole gender problems, but that people should pay taxes to fund these. It was really Sodom. That was really Sodom. That's like a Sodom mentality. Anyway, okay. So now let's go into the hospitality thing. It says that Avram Avinu, whose soul was from the sphere of Chesed. Yitzchak Avinu's soul was from the Sephira of Gevurah, and Yaakov Avinu was from his soul was the Sephira of Tiferet. In English translation, The soul root of Abraham was from the power of giving. The soul root of Yitzchak, all of us come from our soul comes from a certain quality and a certain heavenly divine quality. And each of us has a combination. None of us are biblical souls anymore. We're all very big combinations. And we've been here several times, and the part of our soul that came into our body now has roots, many different roots. But in Tanakh, in the Bible, the people of the personalities of the Bible, they were primary souls. And their souls came from one root, one particular character trait, one particular spiritual um, um, energy, unique spiritual energy. So Abraham was coming from chesed, giving and loving and kindness. Yitzchak was coming from gevura, judgment and din and fairness and truth. And Yaakov Avinu was a perfect combination of both of them coming from tiferes, which means compassion. Okay, so Abraham Avinu had a cheshek. He wanted, like you say, you ever really wanted something. So he had what he wanted. He really wanted guests. And so these guests came. And so Abraham Avinu, as I said before, was one of the richest men in the world at that time. He had, we don't have numbers, but he had hundreds, most of servants and workers. And it says that he himself wanted to, he and Sarah, the two of them, these are the most famous people in the world, the king and the queen of the world. He told Sarah, you go and quickly make the matzah, make the bread. It was Pesach then, so she made unleavened bread matzah, and he ran to the bakar, to the flock, the sheep, and he himself took a sheep. He grabbed it, he picked the best one out, and he brought it, and he gave it to to the boy to shecht it and to prepare it, and then he ran and he milked a cow. And he took the cow and he went into where they keep the cheese and he took some cheese. And between all of them, between Avram and Sarah, they prepared this meal for these angels who didn't eat anyway because they don't eat. But that's a very interesting, I'm just to put that on the slide for a second. That's the first story in the Parsha. And the last story in the Parsha is about the binding of Yitzchak. And it says there, and we say this every single morning in the prayers, because our rabbis felt it was so important to every single morning read the entire, you'll see it's the whole Aliyah, it's Shvi, it's the whole Aliyah, it's the seventh Aliyah in the whole, in the Parsha. And Avraham Avinu, Hashem says to him, go and bring up Yitzchak as an offering. Hashem didn't say kill him or slaughter him, he just said bring him as an offering, which Avraham Avinu interpreted, because in those days, Huvela, I'm teaching, sweetie. I'm going to call you back unless it's an emergency, okay? Okay.
What?
I'm teaching. Can I call you back?
Yeah.
For my grandchildren, I stop everything just to make sure everything's okay. So Avraham Avinu, he assumed that Hashem is telling him to bring a sacrifice, to kill him, to shecht him. So, which of course Hashem had no intention, it was only a test. But it says, Vayashkem Avraham baboker, Avraham Avinu got up in the morning, he himself, not anybody else, Vayachavosh es chamaro, and he saddled his donkey. Now that's like saying he took the car to the gas station and filled it up with gas, checked the oil, checked the water. The truth is, I don't even know anymore about cars if they have gas and oil and water, because I don't have any of these newfangled cars. But in the olden days, it's like he had so many servants. What in the world was he doing that for? So we see, on the simplest level, that our tzaddikim, when it came to doing a mitzvah, they wanted to physically participate in the mitzvah. They wanted to physically do the mitzvah, not send it out to a servant and not delegate to anybody. So here I'm going to read to you from the Gemara. The Gemara says the following. The Gemara says the following. It's about Shabbos. And, you know, there's so many ways to do Shabbos. There's so many ways to do Shabbos. I saw such a funny advertisement. Excuse me. I saw a very funny advertisement for a catering, a takeout catering place here in Jerusalem. And you know, I don't watch TV, and I don't even know if they have any more commercials on TV because I don't watch TV. But somehow somebody sent me this commercial. It was on one of my things, I think on Instagram, or that's really the only thing I have. Or maybe they sent it to me on WhatsApp. So here it is. You see this lady, and she's coming with 4 or 5 big shopping bags from this catering place. That's right. I know this catering place. It happens to be they make very good food. And so you see this very, very nice looking put together lady, religious lady, carrying these big China shopping bags with the big name of the company on the bag. And she says, and it's all in Hebrew, I have an hour. I have an hour. I'll get all this food into my pots. They're going to think I cooked like crazy for Shabbos. And you see that she takes out everything. She takes out chicken and then different kinds of meats and different kinds of, soups and different kinds of cookles and different kinds of fish. And she's putting it in her pots. And she's filling the whole platter, how do you say platter in English? The heating thing that we put our food on for Shabbos. And she has salads. And she has the salads. She's lining them up. And she's taking off the tags and the desserts. And then, everybody comes in the house, the kids, the husband comes in, and she's like, I've been cooking. I've been all day long preparing Shabbos, and they pick up the cover of the pot. Wow, this smells so good. This smells so good. This smells so good. Yeah, okay, that's one way to make Shabbos, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. But here's what the Gemara says. The Gemara says, Rav Safra, these are all Tanaim and Amoraim, the greatest tzaddikim. Right after the first generation, when prophecy had been removed, and the tzaddikim put prophecy into wisdom. That's what the Talmud is. So Rav Safra, for Shabbos, he would grill the meat, and Rava would salt the fish for Shabbos, and Rav Chisda would go and cut up vegetables. Very, very. He would make a salad. Hello.
Bobby?
Yeah.
It's kind of an emergency.
Okay. I'm on YouTube right now.
Okay.
10 minutes? Can it wait 10 minutes?
I don't think so, actually.
Okay, then I'll stop the class. Just a second. Just a second, YouTube people. I'm going to have to stop this class, and then I might start it again. Sorry. A little bit of an emergency in the family. Okay. 1 second. Now I have to stop the Zoom. Just a second.